This is meeting number 12 of the Fort River Building Committee, and this is being recorded by Amherst Media, and today is September the 5th, and we are here at the police station community room. Thank you. First thing on our agenda is to approve previous minutes. Does anyone have any corrections? Motion to approve them?
Motion to approve the previous meeting.
Second. All in favor? Stand straight. Okay. Motion passes. The next item is public comments. Have someone here? No comment? That's fine.
Just listening.
Okay. So I'm going to move to the third item, which is recording of these minutes. We did get a submission of applicants from, Mike forwarded on this afternoon. I doubt everybody got a chance to look at them because they literally arrived in the last half hour.
60 pages long.
Yes, and it was 60 pages long. A lot of it was very repetitive, kind of rote stuff. Yeah. What I would like to do is, I've skimmed them all. If we could get a couple volunteers to also look at them, maybe we could have a short impromptu, meeting minute person, kind of subcommittee, and then working group there. That's the word I want. Working group, not subcommittee, and then give a response back to Mike and set up some interviews. I think it'll be fairly easy from my scanning. I think there'll be a natural selection. So I have the volunteers to join this now. Right. Thanks. Great. In the interim, do we have a formal volunteer for recording today's meetings? We'll take some notes, but it'd be great if someone would volunteer to also take some notes.
I do have to leave at 6.
Yeah, but I think we're going to probably not try to go past 6 anyways.
Okay.
Given that we'll lose a number of people. Okay. That is recording of meeting minutes topic. And so the next item is to review the current progress with our consultant team, TSKP. And so I will turn things over to you all for the next little while.
Great. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, my name again is Richard Sivek with TSKP. With me is my associate, Jesse Saylor. And tonight, what I would like to do is give you an update on several things, 5 things really, on the work that we've been doing, primarily which has been focused on getting an understanding of the educational vision for the program, getting a better understanding of the conditions of the existing building. And to that end, we've had members of our consulting team visit the building and the site, and we're expecting them to prepare their own assessment of what they have seen, and we'll compile that information and make a report for the committee later. In August, on the 24th of August, we met with Tim Sheehan. He's the coordinator of curriculum instruction and assessment for the district, to review with him the existing building to get a better understanding of how it works. You may recall we distributed to this committee a plan that we compiled from the existing drawings that we've obtained from Jim. We returned those drawings to Jim, for the record. And those drawings did not accurately reflect how the building is currently being used. So we wanted to make sure that we met with Tim and got that understanding. And it was very good information. We talked with him about the range of population that we will be looking at. I believe that was touched upon with this committee at the last meeting as well. And so we're going to be looking at 2 ends of the spectrum. One is the existing population, roughly 320, or we call it also, I think, 315 in some of our analysis.
We understood it to be 315, so that's reflected here. Now we know it's 320.
Right. And the upper end of the spectrum is 420. Is that right?
Yes.
We also asked him to identify the names of the staff members who are occupying each of the spaces. That's a good method to check that we've accounted for everybody. That's been done. He delegated that responsibility to his people, I guess. And so we got that information late last night, and Jesse was able to compile that information and indicate that on the plans that we distributed this afternoon, which are those colored diagrams showing all of the spaces. We still need to visit the other school. That was again cited as a good example, but also as a way to be able to respond to questions from the public. Some questions that might come up go to parity questions. How big is your gymnasium versus how big is my gymnasium? How many classrooms do you have versus how many classrooms do I have? I want to make sure that we have all of that information available when we meet with the public. I raised a question to Tim about how he envisioned the media center being used in the future. We have seen media centers being reduced in size and currently even distributed, media being distributed in the school. Sometimes it's distributed in all of the classroom clusters. Sometimes it's divided into two in an elementary school, with some of the media being placed in the primary grades, let's say K through 3, and then some in the upper grades, grades 4 through 6, let's say. But the answer was no, we'll continue to have a central media center as well as a central computer classroom. We talked about the vision for the number of art rooms, and one art room is what's envisioned to continue into the future. We prepared these meeting minutes of that meeting on August 24th. I don't know if this has been distributed to members of this committee yet. I brought a printed copy. It has been distributed as well. I know some members of the committee were at that meeting, so if your recollection is different, we'd like to get your input. I know John, you were there. And if your recollection is different on any side of the bar.
So good.
So far, so good. Okay. We also wanted to share with you our initial observations of the building. That's why I distributed copies of some photographs that I took. By the way, this material, I believe, will be sent to you digitally as well, so that you can post it on their website, so that it can be available for people who wanted to visit the committee's website. So just a few things. Photo number 1, which is a snapshot of the classroom E-wing, shows how some rooms have been configured using furniture and equipment. So in order to allow circulation through those classroom pods, recall that the building footprint is arranged in these pods or blocks, as you can see. So here's the K block, and then we have block A, B, C, and so on, each of which contains 4 classrooms. So in E-wing, this photograph shows you how staff has arranged bookshelves to create a passageway to get from the corridor to the outer area of the block and the classrooms located. Well, that does some interesting things. The square footage that you thought you had in the classroom that we reported previously is not accurate, because if you subtract that passageway, that's essentially corridor space, you end up effectively reducing usable area in the classroom. So what you'll see in this diagram now is the size of the classrooms, the effective size of the classrooms that you really currently have. So if you look at classrooms, you have 725 square feet, 696 square feet. That's not what we thought we might have. You just look at the original diagrams of the floor plans. What does that mean? Well, if you are going to use MSBA guidelines, you're too small. Your classrooms are too small to meet those kinds of state guidelines. At a minimum, the state is looking for 900 square feet, just to give you some comparison. The photograph below that is just a typical classroom in the K wing, the kindergarten wing, so you can see anything unusual in that area. Photo number 3 is the computer lab, which must have been originally an auxiliary gym or exercise room or some sort of physical activity room. It's like being in a well with the light very high in the space. It's not a very good computer lab, so there needs to be something done. But according to Tim, the need for a computer lab will continue. We just need to determine how to best reconfigure that. If one of the options, we are going to be looking at one of the options, which is to build. Photo number 4 shows the entry vestibule, and that entry vestibule is very deep before you get to the administrative area, which is an issue. It's an issue observing people coming and going into the building. In fact, one staff member has been assigned the job of being placed near the door to the admin area so they can get a better line of sight to the entryway.
I think another thing that's interesting to note is that, just like Twin in town, there are classrooms before you really get into the office. You know?
Correct.
It's a vestibule kind of in name only, because you're really into program for the field. You're able to access program space.
Correct. So we'll make comment about that when we talk about security issues. Photo number 5 is the other building. I didn't know what else to call it. It's the bathrooms that are near the playfield areas. The question we were just chatting about before the meeting. You may know. Who has jurisdiction over these buildings?
The town,
The town, the Department of Rec?
yes.
Okay.
It's not unlocked during the school day, we don't access it.
So one of the options we're going to be looking at is available areas on the site where we can put a footprint of a new building, if that's one of the options, and I think it will be one of the options we look at, to be built while the existing building is occupied. This building may be in the way. So, in that scenario. So we will have to address that when we talk about that option, about what do we do in the interim, et cetera. We also will affect the playfield areas, obviously. And then that will raise the question of, in the footprint of the new building and square footage of the new building, should we make space for this kind of a function? Now, we have done that on other projects where we have created bathrooms that are off of, let's say, a courtyard that can be kept secure, that can be made available to people who are using playfields, but don't have access to the rest of the building, just the bathroom area. But we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into the options. Photo number 6 is the existing gym at Fort River School. It's a small gym. At least it's a small gym according to state guidelines. And yet, according to Tim, it seems to be adequate in size. I would like to compare this to the other gyms in the elementary schools that you have, just so that if the question of parity comes up, we'll have an answer.
I would just love to say I don't agree with Tim.
Okay.
As far as adequacy, are the lines of the gym are next to the wall basically, so if you're not active in a game, there's no place to be really, so to orchestrate like on-off kind of things and switching teams, it's not adequate.
Yep.
How much larger are elementary gyms typically?
Well,
50%.
yeah.
50% larger?
Yeah, very often they're used for community purposes as well, and very often they have to be large enough to accommodate a play in a regulated area, plus a safe zone beyond that, plus potential seating as well. So they get to be quite large. According to state standards, you should be around.
6,000.
And you're under 4,000. 37.
Now, the shape would be right, but it's really about the same amount of space that, on that colored plan, it takes you to the hallway by the library. The
are
volume of the
correct.
gym might actually be close to the correct size, but the playing floor area is size.
You are absolutely correct. So if, in the scenario of reusing the existing building, that portion of the building already has a high roof area, I believe could be easily, that gym could easily be enlarged. Was there a question over here? Photo 7, I didn't know what to call this room. It's like a server room, plus a book storage room, plus a mechanical room. I call it book storage.
Where is that in the plan, by the way?
That is,
If you look in the middle of the building,
Yeah.
there's a yellow sensory room.
yes,
Okay.
there's that.
And there's
gray.
next to that is the toilet, and then the gray storage, it's that gray storage
That's
space.
correct. So,
Elite. Just saying.
I raised the question whether there's a need for a book storage room. Yes and no is the answers I've gotten in past projects. Sometimes there is a book storage room that's associated with the media center, even controlled by the media director. Sometimes storage is distributed in clusters around the building.
From a teacher perspective, we're already low on storage.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Judging from what we've seen.
And we don't even have places to like store extra chairs for assemblies and things like that, so.
Right. But what about the idea of distributing storage rather than having a central storage?
I'm okay with that if we have bigger spaces.
Okay. Photo number 8 is media center. And I think we can do better. I think it's not a very efficient arrangement of furniture and equipment. I think we'd like to study that a little bit more in detail. But it does have an area, there is no library workroom, is what we typically have called it, or a media director's workroom area. That person has sort of encroached into the actual collection, doing work there, where the former media director area or library workroom has been delegated to other
That's
uses.
cannibalized for other uses.
Right.
The other thing to note here is that, just like its twin, there's no natural light.
Correct.
That's one of the things that makes it
That's
less
correct.
pleasant as a media center.
The previous library director room is now ELL, 330 square feet peak. Photo number 9, I labeled orchestra room because that's what I was told it was, but it's not really an orchestra room. It's really it's big enough for a small ensemble and faculty. And that's that tan area in this corner here, not too far from the gymnasium. You should have a legitimate orchestra room or band room. You should also have a choral room. And you do have a room that functions as a music room. That's this large tan area here near the cafeteria. This may have been the former cafeteria area
I think
as
it was.
well. I think you may have had 4 eating stations, if you will.
Mhm.
One of them has been captured to create, I don't know if it's choral room or,
It's been where the music teacher teaches out of.
okay.
And she does have a chorus that runs out of there as well, yes. So our orchestra, just for clarification, we don't squish everybody in that little room. It is for small ensembles, you're absolutely right. When they practice, they use the cafeterias.
Okay. So then you drag all your instruments to that area and then back again.
Okay, is there needs to be a music room?
I believe,
This was one.
I think in the Wildwood, so I gave you the prints for Wildwood. I think in Wildwood they also practice in the cafeteria. In the afternoons when the cafeteria is being used for music practice.
Mhm.
They have a music room where the computer lab is.
Oh, they do?
They have the music room is where the Fall River is the computer room, so it makes more sense for the
Mhm.
room. It doesn't look so bad with the tall ceilings.
Well, the additional volume is good, but
Mhm.
it still is acoustically
Yeah,
a problem.
yeah, but, and ensemble practices, I think it's in the cafeteria, in the rooms.
And Diane, it's the orchestral music is a different faculty member than the choral
Yes,
faculty?
and different from band. One person does orchestra, one person does band, one person does music and chorus.
And music and chorus is that faculty member's always in the building, and the other ones kind of rotate around
Yes,
the district.
that's right.
Because I remember Tim saying.
That's right.
Okay, photographs. Then we have a special ed room A. We also have a special ed room B. These two yellow areas here. Actually, you have a lot of special ed rooms in this
Mhm.
building. And according to state standards, you have excess amount of square footage.
I think some of that is to accommodate the specialized programming that we house too.
I'm wondering if that's what it is, or is it just the fact that we're in this building and we're filling the space? That's the other thing that does happen.
It does, because we used to actually have special education teachers share rooms sometimes, and as we've grown and space became available.
You fill the space.
That's right.
Yes, we do know that phenomenon.
Yep.
You could take away the space for the Ames program, the building blocks program, and you'd still be way over the guideline.
Sure.
Guideline space.
Sure.
A little bit later this afternoon, Jesse will walk you through the worksheet that we've been using to measure what you have versus what the standards are. I was a little puzzled by the next photo 11, sensory room, and what happens in there. In fact, what we would like to do is through Tim, or the superintendent's office, have a special ed staff session to get a better understanding of all the special ed rooms are utilized.
That makes sense.
And then photo 12 is other rooms. Unfortunately, there was a lot of floor cleaning going on.
Yes, this is, yes.
When we were going through it, we'll go through it again now that the building is occupied, just to reassess it. But we couldn't identify what the uses were in these other rooms, and there are quite a number of other rooms.
I'm sure I'm going to tell what
Yeah,
number
which
12
one that is,
is.
Diane?
I can't tell what room that is.
Neither could we.
It was early, so that we weren't set up yet.
Is it
I
testing?
can't tell what it is.
There's just a
Like,
bunch
I don't
of-
even recognize the stuff on the
There's
desk.
just a bunch of junk piled around in our room, so that anyone looking in it would have a hard time making sense.
But in summertime, that's what rooms look
I
like.
was looking
No,
at
I'm not
what-
criticizing, I'm just saying.
I can't tell what it
Marie's
is.
got a comment
Hi.
question.
I wanted to ask, can you go back to the color?
Yes.
So, I was at the meeting where we talked about some of the room space actually being corridor space and so on.
Yes.
In this, and I suspect it was done just because it's an easier way to show it, I mean, everything's kind of coming in from the side, you know, in three of the four walls. And obviously, that's not how the room's set up. I'm guessing each individual pod has some different way of creating a corridor, so.
Right, and we haven't observed that everywhere. Now that the building's occupied, we'd like to revisit it. When we were there, things were moved around,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so we didn't get a true picture.
Yeah, I think, just we can get a sense of actual use to figure out, you know, are all of these rooms down to, you know, to the 600, 700, you know, like what?
Yeah, we'll go back and we'll reconfirm that. And I think what may be helpful is actually show some furniture configurations so you get a better sense of scale
Yeah.
and the use of the room. But you have corridor on one side, you have toilet rooms on the opposite side, and you need to get from one end to the other.
Yeah, no, it was actually the kind of that I mean, this is showing these four squares kind of all together, this room coming in from the edge, so I'm just trying to. That's
Yeah.
clearly not what's going, because you don't do the corridor of the exterior walls.
Well, I think what they're trying to do is.
You do to get to
Right.
the toilet,
You
you
do.
do.
So they
I
have.
would say every room is shrunk.
Right.
On both sides?
Well, yes, because there's a faux wall in between many of them too.
Yeah.
They were built as open spaces, so
No, I
the
know.
square footage
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
yeah. So there's a faux wall dividing them
We could pick up
and
the
across like this as well as
big
the edges.
walls but they basically are a plus sign
Mhm.
in the ones we observed. We may have missed one, but you could draw that plus sign between the four rooms, and it's allowing circulation around the end of it. So I suppose in the corner classroom, you could draw the circulation straight to the toilet or whatever, but we kept it around the perimeter.
Yeah, maybe now they're arranged a little bit differently. Maybe there is a corridor between, along these demising walls. It's possible, we just didn't see that.
In my experience, they're mostly around the outside, but if we were, now that everything's fully set up, just going back and seeing, there could be some that are slightly more efficient, and some that are slightly
Mhm.
less efficient. But I suspect this is a pretty close average of how much loss there is.
And we set the corridor at 6 feet, and it's an educational corridor with, it's probably we probably put out more space in our plan than you actually have in your floor plan layout, because you have loose furniture tends to push into that zone.
Yeah.
Well, there's one photograph, I can kind of count 6, whatever,
Yeah.
12-inch tiles. That one's pretty close, but I do know from experience that some of them have been set less.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe they shouldn't have been.
Right. So
But
building code would want to have that 6 feet,
Right.
so a big furniture item.
I'm surprised that, there are people who do inspection for such buildings, and they are obligated to do it on an annual basis,
Yeah.
so.
but it might be-
Fire department comes to visit every year.
Yeah.
So, I had a suggestion, and I talked to you before the meeting started, to visit Wildwood. So you mentioned on your meetings about visiting Crocker Farm,
Yes.
but it's a very different layout. Wildwood is at a higher occupation rate. It has less specialty in its program, but
It's
it
the
has-
sister school.
it's the sister school, so, but it's very different feeling than, many things are very different feeling from Wildwood to Fort River.
Yeah.
I'm a very Wildwood, so I've been there. So I also suggest that you visit Wildwood because it's very different configuration.
We will, we'll visit.
And it's more, I think it's for 20 or for 10 students, so the more grades.
Okay.
I have questions. I'm just wondering, is there a staff break room, lunchroom, stuff?
It doesn't have walls either. It's right behind that storage space we talked about before, that purple
The teacher
teacher
workroom.
work in the middle.
Oh, the
That's
teacher
it.
workroom, that's this.
Yeah, there's a teacher workroom, and then there's a teacher lounge, if you will, with more comfortable seating,
Where's that?
which is the
It's-
smaller teacher
It's
workroom.
right there.
And then there's a corridor, and then there's a copy
It's
room.
smaller than this one. I don't think so.
This is an actual wall here.
Just curious.
No.
I've been in there.
I mean, I don't know what it is.
Well, no, I've been in there, but it's been like 25 years.
You were small.
I'm sorry, I was smaller then.
I'm trying to do this on a bigger than I was a
That's
kid.
so-
Or smaller than I was a kid.
Okay, so that brings you up to speed on what we've been doing to try to understand the programming and some initial observations of the existing building. As I said, we have sub-consultants, including the site, mechanical, and structural component as well. We'll get reports from them.
So those are the folks that have been there so far.
Yes, yes. We haven't seen anything from your survey or from your geotech.
So the survey, I believe, has just started. I don't have a completely up-to-date progress report, but the survey work has started.
Okay.
We have not started geotech. I believe where we left off was June was going to give us.
I think I was going to put it together, yes.
I have not heard anything of it myself, so.
But they just make a meeting, perhaps I'll prompt it to send this kind of status update.
Okay, so that brings us through update on the existing floor plan, which we'll continue to update as we get more information. Brings us to the summary tables, the space summary tables, which is the other handout, another handout that we gave you this afternoon. There are two tables. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, and I think you've seen these before, but these have been updated. So you see one population is 315, and the other population is 420. That's in the red text in the upper left-hand corner. So I'm going to ask Jesse to explain this to you.
Okay. I think think we looked at one of these last time, and it's the same format. The way it works is in the left column, you're seeing the existing conditions. That's the building as reflected in this drawing. So that's the left column. The center column would be the proposed. That's our program for the school. And then the right column is the MSBA guidelines. And that's a useful benchmark or reference for us when we talk about what size a space should be. And then there's two, as Richard mentioned, 420 and 315, representing a range, as we've discussed with you, that you're interested in looking at. A school of 420, which is roughly considered as three sections per grade. And it also includes 45 or 3 sections of pre-K. So that works out numerically very well. The 315, we've talked about being a school of similar size to your current population, but we've also incorporated the 3 sections of pre-K into that number. So that results in, see at the bottom, 270 students grades K through 6 or K through 5, depending on whether 6th grade remains in the school. And I think that idea of having a range is to kind of catch the biggest and smallest. And so that's why that made sense to us. But I think it's something we'd want to have confirmed, hopefully coming out of this meeting, that we've got that overall picture correct.
I think you need to explain something.
Yeah.
Because in the upper left-hand corner, you have a 315 population. But then in the lower right corner, you just mentioned a population of 270.
Correct.
What's the difference?
Right, so 270 is the K through 6 population, and then you add the 45 pre-K, and you get to 315 as the total school population.
And the reason this table on the right-hand side, which is the MSBA guideline, uses 270 is because MSBA does not count pre-K. Okay? Understood? It's just they don't acknowledge it. They don't say, and I have my own feeling about that, but I think they should acknowledge it. I mean, that's the sensible thing to do, but they don't. It's not part of their standard yet.
When you say they don't acknowledge it, that means they don't fund it?
That's not completely.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's, the answer to that is maybe. Unfortunately.
Their guidelines don't guide you to how to
Correct.
solve.
And I think they're concerned about the need, the amount of that need in other communities in the state. And so I don't think they've addressed it yet. I'm not expressing myself very well, and I think that's because I'm trying to be cautious about what I say. I don't think they're ready to make that a standard yet because of the consequences. If they make it a standard, everybody's going to want to do this.
So, getting back to the 270, that's not 3 full classes per grade in K to 6.
Correct. No, 3 full classes per grade in K to 6 is going to lead you to 420. Right. So this is the bottom end. This is now 2 sections per grade.
Right. But I guess the other issue is that if the current enrollment at Fort River is 320, it does not include pre-K. And there's currently, this would indicate a decrease in enrollment?
Correct.
In a sense, because there are some sections, and Diane will chop me off if I go in the wrong direction, there are some grades right now where there are more than 2.
Right.
But there are,
Yeah.
but
It's 2 to
predominantly
3.
it's 2.
It's 2 or 3 per grade. But I guess I'm just saying is that if the current total enrollment is low 300s, then saying that the future enrollment of 270 would be a substantial decrease.
I think
So I
have concerns about that figure number that we're using as well, because there's a couple of things happening concurrently at the same time. One is a consideration of a reconfiguration of school assignment by the school,
Right.
and also a consideration of a development of a dual language program that's being tossed around. So there's a number of things in development at the same time as we're talking about this. So 270 is a number that makes me feel uncomfortable.
But there's also the question, though, what about the sixth grade remaining at the elementary level, right? And if the sixth grade moves out of the elementary grades, out of the elementary schools, then that could absorb any, the resulting empty seats could
Right.
could
Yeah.
satisfy the pre-K.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, we've talked about, there's so many factors. There's also
Yes.
the regionalization possibly with Pelham and what impact that might have. And so
Right.
I think it is impossible, I think, at this point to get that number. I just want to make sure that folks are comfortable with where we land as a low.
I think though, understand that this is a feasibility study. We've talked about this in our office. I think what we owe you is the range of possibilities. This project could be as little as X numbers of dollars if you do renovation work and it can accommodate your population, or it could be as much as X numbers of dollars if you go to a maximum population and you build a new building. And that way you know your exposure in that range.
Can we think of a modeling where you can plan for, if you think of the 270, but thinking, we could add one more module at the end of the building and bring it up to higher in the future in case the numbers increase in the future?
Within that range, there's a number of variable possibilities.
Big.
One of which is we do a core for cafeteria, for gymnasium, for all admin areas that could support a population of 420, but the number of classrooms only support 320, it's like 270, right? So that on day one, you can serve the minimum, but as the population changes, you can grow it. And the cost of that would be somewhere between the minimum and the maximum.
I can say in the conversations we're having both about reconfiguration and dual language, the target is 3 full sections at each grade level.
Which is the 420.
Right.
So I totally get that, and we want to definitely cover that. Maybe there's no use in doing a range. That's another approach, is that there's going to be options along the 420 scheme. But we've talked about a range. It didn't seem to make a significant difference to use that hybrid approach, like a 360. There wasn't a big differential. And you're doing like 2 or 3 grades per section as opposed to 3 grades per section. So the 315 represents 2 grades per section in the case that those factors fall out and you have less students. So I guess, do you want to pursue that kind of a range?
That's one of the fundamental questions. Should we
Right.
have funds?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
I think it would be silly for us to expect the enrollment to drop that low to 270. We know we have overcrowding happening at Crocker Farm. We know we have to do something to balance things out. So I think going that low is I'm okay with, I would support a range potentially, but 270 feels very uncomfortably low for me.
So I can see two hands up.
I think you were up first.
I tend to agree with that. I don't get the point of looking at a building that's so small that we're probably not realistically ever going to adopt or build it. Particularly because it seems so small, and I think there's it's not definitive, but I actually think there's some reason to believe we may be bottoming out in terms of, we may be hitting a trough in terms of the reduction in enrollments we've been getting, and I wouldn't be shocked if it actually starts going up again. And so we'd be building to a size even below what we need now, and that just doesn't make any sense to me, for the cost of the building. I mean, if we had a range, I'd rather start with our current K-6 enrollment, add preschool to that, and then if there's an upper boundary range, figure out what that upper boundary range is from there.
Okay.
I agree with both of them. And I have a question. What is the advantage? It feels like difficult to do the feasibility study to a range. And what would be the problem with just going to the upper range and doing the feasibility study on that? Like, is there no going back?
No, I would say that the easy answer is no. been
Yeah.
told, this is a feasibility study, it's going to get, there's going to be change before an actual project is
Yeah.
built. You know, I like the notion that there be, and I think we need to have some level of flexibility in the plans that get looked at, because there are a lot of factors that are going to vary the population that's going to ultimately go into this school, and some of them are a number of years out. But you're right, maybe that our low is too low, and we should shoot for something that's a little bit higher.
That might, would it make more sense, sorry,
Yeah.
to go back to considering the 360, 420?
If that's the consensus of the committee, I mean, that's what kind of, you know your community, I haven't seen demographics, I guess that's in process right now, I haven't seen any reports on that.
What was the rationale on the 360? How do we get to that number?
It's 315.
No,
360.
360.
Yeah.
I think in the 360 is the current population right now plus
Plus
pre-K.
pre-K.
Plus, okay. Okay, so
Yeah.
starting at the current population plus we can and going to the max. Yeah.
That's
that
correct.
makes sense.
So keeping
It's
it,
rational to me.
keeping it K6 and adding.
But I think we should think about 3 sections for sure. That's in all the planning that we're talking about reconfiguring our populations, that's the target to get to is three sections.
Yeah, well, that will be the
Yep.
420.
Yep.
So, well, with that shedding of light on,
It may be useful as we proceed through.
okay, why don't you do that?
Do you have a 360?
Just,
You
you
haven't-
knew there was a
you
reason.
haven't-
We like those papers in
You
there.
haven't
Anticipated
had
this
a
conversation go in this direction. It's pretty good.
You never know. Might as well.
You've done this before?
Now, we don't have every possible scenario written here.
Conversation, left-hand turn, and be like, nope, let's go back.
This is the time. Let's get the right scenario.
I mean, on a very fundamental level, it's a little safer for us if we really want to bracket the potential cost of the community to be a little high than to be low. So, because we can always scale back. If we're low, it's always capable to go up.
They'll scale it back for you.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I was getting to. Why don't we just go for 420?
Well, you will have to defend how you've gotten to that number. So
Yeah.
we do this here, and then we all have full faith in whatever we present going forward.
I don't really mind having two, maybe if we can do it, having two precisely for that reason. I also don't want the feedback to be, so you immediately went for the most expansive school. I mean, not the most expansive, but a more expansive school. Having some sort of essentially status quo option that's approved sounds sensible to me.
Yeah, it is. It's a very rational way to do this.
And I think some of the variables are going to be decided, probably, I think in October, the school committee is voting on the immersion.
Yeah.
So in October, that variable is going to be gone.
Okay, good.
October, early November, probably.
November 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, so
November
And actually, there are going to be a series of 2 or 3 Amherst School Committee meetings, which is going to be really in-depth presentations and discussions about it, which is awesome. And it's, I mean, it's of any use to you, the materials pretty good.
Good. Yeah, no. I may even attend those meetings.
Good.
Listen to the discussion.
So do we need to vote on the range? Is that something, is that on the agenda?
I'm not looking for a vote.
Well, I'm asking more from a procedural.
From our
standpoint,
perspective,
from our perspective.
um,
And is it on the agenda?
It's not
Do that?
necessarily
Or do we have to? That's what,
I think we can proceed as we are without
Yeah.
a formal vote.
yeah.
Eventually, they're going to begin to generate options based upon these numbers.
Mhm.
And before they actually start committing a lot of time to that, we probably procedurally should vote so that they have a sense of, okay, that was the direction.
I think you can wait until we start doing these options, and then if it starts to feel right, then you can take a vote to
Okay.
formalize it. But for now, I get a sense of the committee, and it's enough for me to proceed.
Okay.
So that's the direction.
Yep.
360 of the
Right. After Jesse did this, I don't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
So after Jesse did that, there was something that didn't jump out at me right away. If you look at special ed and compare the numbers of total square footage, that's the number in the green line, that's labeled special ed, and you compare that with the column on the right, the MSBA guideline, which says
4,530.
compare that to the line in the column or the column under existing condition, which is 12,800. That jumps right out at how you have grown accustomed to filling the spaces with your program, but it's disproportionate to what the state would.
How does the state ascertain how much they should be?
It's, the way this form works is the student capacity, the enrollment K through 6 in this case, is extrapolated through formulas to that category. But
I think the answer is it's based on historical information. It's like,
So, but I mean, if we purposefully concentrate some special needs programming in particular elementary schools and then aggregate students across the district for those needs, wouldn't our space utilization be higher
Yes.
than would be shown in those?
yes, and you would then have to make the case in your educational program, in your ed specs, demonstrating that. And then there's also the entity called DESI,
right.
which weighs in on this as well.
Right, and this is the area where we see the most variation from school to school. It doesn't as directly follow the NSBA guideline, but to look at 12,000 to 4,000, it's more than we usually
Yeah, I
see.
think obviously the principal could speak more directly to this, but I suspect the actual number in terms of appropriate utilization isn't going to be 4,000, even if it's not 12.
Yes, that's the sense I'm getting as well. Well, you do
I would be
have-
alarmed if we went with this number for square footage.
Yeah.
And don't be alarmed, we have it in the proposed column, but we're asking for a meeting with your special ed director.
Perfect, great.
I think that's really important, though.
Yeah.
Even though there've been conversations, you listen to the school committee, there've been conversations about how, are there better ways we could be distributing these programs? The reality is the status quo is the right way to program the building for now, because that is what we're doing.
Understood. We'll have a better handle on this once we have those meetings, and then we'll come up with a recommendation that makes sense and you're comfortable. Another thing that jumped out at me is art and music. Your art and music spaces are too small. Is that right?
No, art's just about right.
Art's just about right.
And so art feels right too, honestly, when living and working in it, it feels pretty solid. But music, I would agree.
So with music, in terms of proposed, we did speak with Tim Sheenan, recruitment coordinator, about that. And we talked about, well, having a good-sized music room, similar to what you have, but of course designed for music, whereas right now you're basically using the cafeterias for the acoustic support. But then also having two instrumental music rooms, larger than what you currently have, but to seat 6 or 8 students at a time for band and orchestra, basically. And then the question was, well, where does the ensemble happen? And the answer was, there's a stage in this program that's attached to the cafeteria or gymnasium or both, depending on how the layout works, that could also be used for ensemble practice.
Right.
So that's how we propose to resolve that part of your curriculum. I think it works pretty well. Let us know what you think.
Explain to us how cafeteria works. How do lunch waves work? It seems like a lot of square footage. And the kitchen servery is too small, just from observation.
Sure.
But we haven't watched it. So how does it work?
Well, we actually, the larger cafeteria that you've indicated at 2,505 square feet, there's a temporary wall that splits those. So we actually use 3 functioning cafeterias, and each grade level goes in one at a time. So essentially we have 7 lunch waves that happen. Mhm.
but not back to back.
Pretty close together. Yeah, there's maybe 5 minutes in between them. Some have a longer stretch depending on the master's schedule, but by and large, it's somewhat rotating for the
So
midsection of the day.
what time does lunch start?
11:20 is our first one, and we serve our last one at 12:40.
At 12:40?
12:40.
That's the start time of the.
Start, they both start times.
It's about 80 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty,
Okay.
pretty, yeah.
So that my question, the back to back, that would make each one 12 minutes, but I think I miscommunicated. They're happening at the same time.
Yes, absolutely, some are
So
concurrent,
they're
yes.
overlapping?
Yes.
So what is the typical lunch period?
30 minutes.
30?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm gonna have to do a Venn diagram.
I'm happy, would it be helpful to see the master schedule?
Yes, it
Okay,
would.
Great.
It would, yes.
I'll share that with you.
Please send that.
Right, so the MSBA guideline, which I think we've adopted and proposed for the cafeteria, is based on doing 2 lunch waves for the student population. So that would probably work in the same time frame.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be able to separate by grade.
If you could reduce my lunch waves, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I would much rather have a bigger space. It's less to manage for supervision, and it actually allows commingling of grade levels that we don't
Right.
currently have, which is a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that jumped out at me is custodial and maintenance. We have a lot of custodial spaces. Nothing against custodians, but it's the kind of thing that if you keep stuff in storage or you have supplies or whatever, and you don't ever change it, you end up with a lot of square footage that is lost to other uses. Any other things that you might want to point out?
When you touched on the media center before, we would point out that the guideline for media centers is just less, but the current media center is spacious, and it's unclear to us that it needs to be that large. So we've adopted the guideline for the proposed media center. And similar with the gym, but it's the opposite with the gym. Your current gym is undersized, so we're proposing to go to the guidelines gym, 50% larger.
I know you need to spend a little time with that. If you could react to that, the middle column, what we're recommending. And you may not be able to tell them until you start seeing options, but we would like at some point to have consensus on what the square footages should be.
I feel that's one of those areas where looking at options as seen as furniture layouts will probably be telling.
Yes.
Because there are things about the current media center that are quite kind of inefficient. You know, you colored it all beige, but some circulation. There'll still be some circulation in any kind of setup, but we can just see that diagram.
For the media center, you're proposing a cut in half,
It would-
more than half. Whew.
Oh,
Yeah, so, how is it gonna be indicated on the space summary? We talked about multi-use rooms for things that are not occurring throughout the entire day and can be used for more than one purpose throughout the day and throughout the week. How do we account for that in the space summary? How does that look?
Well, we've added a line in the core academic spaces for breakout teaching spaces. And we have identified at this time 1 per grade, 1 through 6. Probably should say K through 6. But for now, we have 6 of them at 150 square feet. And the way that works against the MSBA guideline is MSBA classrooms are 950. We have 900 square foot classrooms proposed, and we've taken that 50 square feet from each of 3 classrooms and made a breakout space. Now, whether or not the sizes are correct is something we can work with you on, space like layout diagrams. But the idea of having a multi-use space that allows for pull-out for ELL or pull-out for even special ed or different programs that you may have, I think is a good one. and could also help us with some of the special education large rooms that we are currently using in terms of reducing that to what's really needed. Because my sense is a lot of those rooms aren't constantly being used.
Yeah.
And the other, and I'm just thinking also of the music programming. Music instruction happens.
Right.
It does on a daily basis, but not the orchestra and the instrumental, so that's very part-time.
Those
So-
are kinds of flexible spaces.
Right.
Music is a good category for that kind of flexible space. You could have a project going, art going, other kinds of activity, breakout area. We talked about the stage also doing double duty.
That's-
With arts integration that's happening in the building, and the support of multi-use space for sure, so in a stage for sure.
Yeah.
We're lacking that.
To return to the media center, I think another thing that would be interesting to compare there is Wildwood or Riverham, very similar media centers. I don't know what the size of the Parker Farm is. It might be, there might be, just like we sometimes get questions about equity and gym size, there might be, even though we might be way over, there might be discussions in the community about, especially if it is a big loss, is there equity in the media center?
Yeah.
I have a question about
Sure.
media centers. So I see that we're calling the library the media center, and I just don't really know what the philosophy is in elementary schools about that. And so my question is mostly directed to Diane about, media centers. Is that, how do you envision them, and how do they differ from the computer classroom, or how are they the same?
Can I go first?
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
So, at the elementary level, and I have seen changes in my career in media centers and schools. I mean, the media center is another teaching station. It's another place where children learn how to use the library, right? So you have a card catalog, or you used to have a card catalog. So you used to teach children how to find resources in the card catalog, look through the shelves and so on, how to use an encyclopedia, how to write a paper.
Can I just add something here?
Yes.
I work for an academic library, so at Smith College, so I know a lot about that, so I'm trying to put
Great.
that into context with elementary libraries, but keep going.
Yeah, and we've also done public libraries as well. And so over the years, we've seen an evolution into adding other kinds of media, right? It used to be film strips, and now it's all kinds of other things as well. So we also see now the introduction of maker spaces as being part of the media center. So it's and community workspaces as being part of the media center. So it's kind of changing.
I mean, information is information, whether it's in a book or on a computer.
And
So,
it's less about shelving.
about what?
Shelving.
Shelving, yes, exactly.
So I would agree with all of that. I think mixed media is certainly where we want to hold on to. I don't want to think about a future that we don't have books. I don't want that future. Sorry. I like books. So I want to make sure we can have all of those spaces from a makerspace. I would want our technology capabilities in our library to be increased, especially because in the older grades, our technology teacher and librarian actually co-teach our upper grade classes
Right.
because of that integration of media in technology and media. But I don't want to let go of either as a distinct space either. So while I want to see technology go up in the media, I don't want the computer lab to go away because I think that the technology is taught, which it's not. So.
Sure.
The media or center related question. I also want to just like the term libraries. Libraries can actually have.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
I mean, it
we're
doesn't-
calling the library, it's the
Library.
library, and it's got tons of
No,
technology, computer classrooms, the whole
I'm a
thing,
huge
yeah.
fan of public libraries all over the US.
Mhm.
I think the movement, all of them, is to be called libraries, but like to house dynamic spaces where you
Right.
create, you add to human knowledge while
Yes.
you also encounter knowledge experience. But that philosophical aside. So why so small? I mean, to me, I think I've seen the library as it is, the media center as it is. Is it because you can organize the space substantially differently in a way that allows for kids to, I mean, because part of the point I'm going to get at is if you've been there now, imagine with a bunch of kids in it, you need as much space as you have to get even any remote kind of separation around what they're doing.
Yeah, are you supposed to
And-
put books in that 2,000 square?
And so,
We used to use the 3 classrooms of pupils, in other words, 18 times 3, to be accommodated in the library. That's the rule of thumb that we used to use. Why so small? These are MSBA guidelines. What I said earlier about they base it on historical information. I mean, they do have guidelines. They even have model diagrams that they give to planners and say, here's the way you should plan. Make sure you have these kinds of square footages in it. But it's based upon existing buildings.
I guess the reality is, I would love to visualize it somehow, because I'm not, I mean, in a certain sense, I'm not actually really, Lord knows I'm not questioning how you got the number. I'm sure you got it from someplace very reasonable. I'm really trying to understand, since I'm familiar with Fort River Media Center, I'm just trying to figure out, if you cut the space in half and you still have lots of activities going on it with a bunch of children, how does that work? And so that's not really a question of authority or validity. It's really a question of trying to visualize and see what that would look like.
What would you lose?
Yeah, right.
Well, and how would it work? And how would it work?
How would it work?
How would you
I'd
block
love to
where the
see
kids
that,
are
yeah.
and stuff like that?
And where the books go.
Yeah.
Like, is compact shelving, what, do you do that in elementary school?
And you're right, our
Not
librarian does
available.
have.
Not available.
Yeah, and our librarian is teaching while other things are happening in the library often, so
Yeah.
you're right to think about at least 3 classes at a time.
We got a couple questions at this end.
I think some of the things how it would work, I think both in Wildwood and for Beaver, they have that pit.
Yes.
They have one meeting space there, and then there's a separate meeting space with tables. I think one of those two. If you got the space. So if you want the vision is think not having the pit or not having the other meeting area.
The spaces that the square footages that we end up recommending in collaboration with you will need to be justified to MSBA. As I said, it's historical information. They're not exactly cutting edge, you know what I mean? So what we have found is that school plans that are more forward-thinking don't adhere so strictly to the MSBA guidelines.
Great.
They stick their necks out, if you will, and they say, we can justify it. Here's how we justify it based upon educational program, curriculum. This is what we're doing. This is how we justify it's what we're doing. And it's been successful. We need that space. We make the pitch.
So we've
Thank
talked
you.
in the past about going and visiting some other places. This might be a good opportunity, a good time to go look at different sized libraries and get a feel for it there. If we go through the MSBA, if there's going to be justifying it, and there's going to be reimbursement rates that are going to be
Right.
affected by this.
Right.
And there's
Right.
also, I think we need to visualize different organizations of X number of square feet. So I think maybe this is a point where we need to go look and see how other places are doing it.
Okay. All right, we'll pull together the list of places and try to suggest some day that we can do this.
Okay, so bring some furniture layouts.
Yeah. Yeah, we could also show you plans of the facility.
That'd be great.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
I also have a media center or library question. It's more about that sort of physical separation that exists in Fort River between the library and the computer lab.
Yeah.
And whether, I would not expect that
Yeah, really,
that
yeah.
was something we would preserve.
No,
But presumably
no, no,
you
no.
want to integrate those, even if they have a separation.
Great.
Because you've got different faculty members in them. But
Yeah, it's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
The computer lab's in the wrong place. So, we finished with that part?
All right, so,
I'm just going to make a quick kind of technical announcement. We're at 5:40. I know we've got 2 folks that will only have
Thank you.
another 20 minutes.
Well, I think the remainder should only, for me, would only take about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, we distribute also this timeline that's been updated. Randall updated it based upon your recommendation at the last meeting about adding another community engagement period. So now you'll see under line 12, another community engagement. So we have one under line 10 and line 12. The other thing we did is decided to this was Jesse's idea, is to give you a preview of agenda items for future meetings. So there's this handout that lists your future meetings and some of the agenda items we would like to discuss.
Very helpful.
And this kind of follows the timeline. So, starting with, you have a meeting on the 26th?
That's fine for discussion.
Yes.
Well, we have here for your meeting on the 26th, should it happen, some preliminary options discussions.
Great.
So that's all I wanted to report tonight.
Do you mind if we publish this on the website?
I don't mind.
Yeah, I think we want to make sure that we kind of let people know that it's all technically tentative
Can you
until,
send
right.
everything with draft
Yeah.
in the background?
Okay, I like we can do that, yes.
So then it's easier for us to send, to post things as to send it as draft and everything.
We'll do that.
Someone's gonna show up in December and expect to talk about something.
Yeah,
Right.
it says on the chapter from the day, so if you put draft on the background, then
Okay.
it's very clear, not only on the title, but also as a,
Understood.
This kind of dovetails nicely into our next topic, which is kind of public outreach, talking about public events and just general schedule. Heather couldn't be here, but I think, Rita, you had some.
so there are a couple of things.
Draft
First, I
review.
sent a press release last week, and if nobody has any comments, I would like to send it out as soon as possible, so people are aware of what's going on.
Anyone have questions, comments? I didn't have.
There's a link on that to the website, right, so people
Yes.
can go.
So there's a link to the website, and then there was a link to, there's a mention on the email, so that people say how to subscribe. So no objections, I'm gonna send it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think Heather, okay, wonders if we can send out the press releases through the listserv. I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to do that?
I know.
So she asked if we can send the press releases through the listserv. So the people that have subscribed to our website and to our feed, to send the press releases through that message. And she also wanted to know about the community engagement, but I think now we have a timeline and we can start planning for those. And I don't think we should. These are the ones that we discussed last time, and I think those are the times that falls is right.
Yeah. I think we can, maybe the working group can look at this and kind of pretty much dovetail together.
Yeah, so we would start sending invitations to the DGOs and so on. If things don't get shifted, we will start narrowing down and let the DGO maybe reserve some dates around these times for the community engagement.
Yes, that's what you should do.
Okay.
Excuse me, could I ask just a question on date? Did you say September 25th?
Well, one of our later agenda items coming up pretty quick is talking about our calendar. But we don't necessarily have our schedule fully embedded for the fall.
It was 26th.
Yes, I think it was the 26th.
It's the 26th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the Amherst School Committee is the 25th.
Right.
And the Regional School District Planning Board, which I serve on, is going to present that night on the 25th. At least that's our tentative plan. So I just didn't want to be overlapping.
This is it's the next day, actually.
Okay.
So I have a question about the community engagement. There are 4 weeks in the timeline. And I guess we're going to have to decide how many meetings we can discuss and we exchange emails how many meetings and whether to put them at the beginning and at the end of the period or in between, because we're gonna need some commitment from
Right.
you.
Yeah, we would be there to obviously be part of the presentations, but you need to think about the groups that you want to
Yeah.
meet with.
And timing of,
The time
you know,
when the
when it has some diversity to time,
Right.
diversity to the groups too.
They could be school committee meetings in which you have announced the presentation, and it could be the public invited for Q&A, it could be dovetailed with those meetings, it could be.
I think I would prefer them separate, because in the school committee, you only have public comments at the beginning and there's no.
There is an advantage to dovetailing them with, or overlapping them with other meetings.
Bring people out.
It brings people out and come up rather than whether it's meeting.
Well, I think it's one of those things where I think the working group should do a little
Yes.
thinking on it.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to, maybe there's one that dovetails with a school committee or someone, but maybe there's I don't want to call it informal, but some sort of event actually in the cafeteria, maybe it's a morning PGO thing. But I think the working group commends to kind of brainstorm.
Yes.
But I think they have to be open to the whole community, not
Yes.
just for River, because if we want support from the whole community, it has to be open to everybody and announced
Yes,
everywhere.
I would
Because
encourage that.
The town is gonna pay for the whole town has to be involved.
Absolutely. More on, I've lost my place. Talked about the press release. I had website down, and I have to admit, I can't quite remember what I thought was to talk about, but maybe I just put it into the placeholder, so no one else remembers. We'll let it go. That was it for public events, public outreach. The next item was the status of the survey and geotech solicitation, and without Jim here, I think we'll table that for next time, unless there's something else I think that you know of. but-
No, I have not had any communication on geotech, and if we're gonna, I said, so you're gonna ask him to just like stats update?
Yeah, just so we kind of know where it stands, so we can at least let you know, okay, in a week you'll have it, or 2 weeks you'll have it, whatever it may be.
I think the idea was Jim was gonna have.
That's
Yeah.
good. Well,
For
the
us to
geotech
approve.
piece, but
Yeah.
I'd also like to know formally where the survey is. Yeah.
The survey has definitely started.
Yeah,
I'm not
okay.
sure exactly beyond that, because I have asked the board. I'm not sure, but I know it started.
Is that a first year factor?
Yes.
The next item is committee membership, and I believe that I sent around a draft letter to send to both the select board and town. Just wanted to know if folks had comment on that. I'd like to, again, like the press release, let it go to its destination if people are comfortable with it.
And just for the public.
Yes.
This is because we are too shy on our original number, which makes quorum difficult to get, and we had requested that be approved by the school committee, and it just has not happened. And so we're trying
Get it to
to
happen.
make that happen.
Not hearing any objection, we'll send that letter out. We had invoices down on the agenda. I don't think we have any current invoices. I don't think you all have submitted your first one yet.
We have.
Yep, and we have, I believe, approved and paid all our invoices for our prior meeting minute. That's true. So I think all I have left is adjournment.
No?
Oh, what did I miss?
Future meetings.
Oh, future meetings, yes.
So, I had sent out, a request for everybody to give me their schedules, and thank you for doing that. Wednesdays looked like they were completely fine. I did get a communication from a member who's unfortunately not here that might be an issue. The trouble is, there is no other day. Tuesdays are school committee, that's school committee regional and Amherst, and that's just not going to work. Thursdays and Fridays are no good, or people aren't available. And on Mondays, we have conflict until we have to have a meeting starting at 7 PM, if that could, I mean, that would, which gets dodgy. So, Wednesday was like this lovely block where everybody was available as of 5:30, and we talked about 6 o'clock for time, just to give people time. I booked, this room is booked.
Yeah.
And.
For our next one.
For our next one, and into the end of December on every other Wednesday. So,
I think we do our best to work with Wednesdays, and I think it might be worth just another email that checks to see if varying the times allows us to catch folks who have a hard time getting a certain time and other times. And I think we want to try to include as many people as we can, but until we're at full kind of number of appointees, it's tough.
Can you say that when it's good with 15-minute intervals for just Wednesday? When it's good, it lets you paint the available times.
Yeah.
You don't have to set the appointment, so you can paint block it every 15 minutes, send it out. When it's good just for Wednesday, we started at 4 until 8:30, so that we
Yeah.
get
like, okay.
Make it a little bit more granular.
It seems,
on
I mean, it seems to be like there was one person that had the issue with it, but now that we're gonna be locking in, yeah, I can, let me know what we can do. And I will start it, I believe, from 5:45 on. And, I'm gonna leave it where it is for next week.
Yes, no, for next week I could think posted schedule.
Are these the dates that are being proposed right now for Wednesdays?
Yes.
So we are meeting a week from today as well.
Yes, it's a little awkward. That wasn't the original intent, but things got complicated.
And is that, what time is that at?
I think the next one's 5:30. We're tentatively 5:30. Or am I misspeaking?
I have a question. Do we have a specific agenda for next week, finalizing the program?
We have finalized program here. We were hoping to get Tim's document today, but whatever form it is, it will say draft.
Right.
And it's a working document. We've told everybody between now and whenever, it's going to be continually revised, but we'd like to have a document to start with. So hopefully we have that available, and hopefully we can get it to the committee in advance, so that we can have a discussion of the points that it tries to make.
6 to 8 is what I had
6 to 8,
proposed.
okay.
Of course, if we are meeting every other week, we could very well be more efficient and be able to wrap up in less than 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah, we love that.
might be more
Are we doing
I know.
we're on the right track.
Usually what happens is.
Sarah, did you have more?
You?
Just checking that.
Good.
So that'll get officially posted, but that's the current consensus.
If we have issues with any of the timing, should I be communicating with you, or is like,
I
just show
You
it?
can always,
show
you
it?
can always send it to me, and I'll make sure that it gets coordinated. And right now, apparently, I have something glitchy happening with my email, so I know Anthony's are disappearing into the vapor. If you don't think I've gotten something, I was just trying to call you at the office. Great. Anything else before adjournment?
Do you guys need anything from us before next week?
No, we found this very helpful tonight, thank you.
Good. Thank you for your work so far. Thank you.
And motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Off we go. Thank you.
All right.